What's up, everybody? Welcome into Shout a Buffalo Football Podcast. Ryan, I think this is the first time we've ever done a live podcast from the Fieldhouse. We got some business in town today, so you're in Western New York. So I said, get on over here after practice. We'll go a little bit earlier, and we'll talk about today's practice. And a very interesting one. We're going to get into some of the details. It's good to have you in person, buddy.
It's great to be here and a lot to talk about, Matt.
A lot to talk about. We're brought to you by the National Comedy Center, nation's museum and national archive dedicated to the art of comedy. Located in Jamestown, New York, the National Comedy Center is the perfect day trip or weekend trip for the entire family. All right, get out to the Comedy Center as soon as possible. We got to get into this because huge news towards the end of practice today. Maxwell Hairston, the rookie cornerback, goes down with an apparent lower body injury. There are multiple reports coming down. I actually didn't see it. I was on the opposite side of the field. I didn't see the injury happen. Our buddy Joe Biscaglia at The Athletic said it looked like a lower leg injury. He was getting worked on by the training staff for a while. Josh Reed said that from Channel 4 that it really looked like he was in some pain as that was going on. He was able to walk off to the locker room on his own power, which I think is a good sign, but you probably got to figure he's going to get shut down for the rest of this mini camp, which is just one more day tomorrow. And it's a shame because we're going to talk about it. It was a really good day for Maxwell Hairston.
Yeah, there's never good news with an injury, but if there, the good news here is there's one more day until summer break, essentially, before training camp. So this is going to give him some time to heal up, get right, and be ready to go at St. John Fisher University, Matt.
You don't want to see this, but you really don't want to see this in a defensive backs room where you're already super banged up. Cole Bishop did a little bit more off to the side today. Damar Hamlin seemed like he was doing a little bit. As a matter of fact, Joey Bosa, I sent out a video to our insiders. You can become an insider at 716-528-6727. Bosa doing a lot more today. He looks like if we were like in season or in training camp, he'd be ramping up to maybe return, which I think is a good sign. But for Hairston, listen, he's gotten the majority of the spring. He's in a spot where, some really good reps today. One of the things I've been really trying to observe is not so much what he does from play to play in terms of splash plays, but is he in the right place at the right time? Is he getting good feedback from the coaches? I felt like today he was playing faster than I've seen him play all spring period long. He had a great route or a great rep one-on-one with Elijah Moore, where there was a couple different parts of the rep where he had different responsibilities, and you could tell after the play, Jamil Adai, the cornerbacks coach, the way that he celebrated with them, he checked every box on the route. And so it was a really important day for him, and just kind of puts a damper on things at the end.
100%. You're getting a win against a player in Elijah Moore who's having a really nice spring here and in Buffalo. So to have that, to check all the boxes, to have all the responsibilities right as a rookie this early on, it's encouraging. And that's what you're hoping to see carry over to the summer when they get to St. John Fisher University. But now the big question is going to be, the severity of this lower body injury and how soon he'll be able to come back to that this summer.
I've also been impressed with Hairston, his ability to kind of ping pong from assignments. Like, they're throwing a lot at him. And I think that's by design, right? Like, you want to put him in a situation where he's getting the best of the best. He's going up against Elijah Moore out here. He's been, linked up with Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman. So we've seen a bunch of different flavors of wide receiver. And that's actually something with the way that Brandon Beane has built this wide receiver room, that gives you the opportunity to throw all those different flavors at the player. We're going to talk about Tre'Davious White in a minute, but I think that's really important for young players like Maxwell Hairston, Dorian Strong, to Corey Couch. Ryan, this is a guy that we're going to be under the radar, buzz guys to watch in the summer. Right. Couch is going to be that guy again. He made a play today. He was one-on-one with Jackson Hawes, and you think immediately safety against a massive tight end. He's in a bad spot. He boxes out the tight end, kind of goes for a sliding catch. He drops it, but it's a really impressive play from a defensive back. If he picks that thing off, we might be outside of the injury talking about this at the top of the show today. So I want to give him a little love.
Yeah. Back-to-back days, giving Couch some love here. And if he can contribute on special teams over the summer and show that he's capable in that area, he might be able to stick around as one of those bottom of the roster cornerbacks. And, good for him. We already talked about the relationship with Jamil Adai, but one more thing on Hairston in terms of putting a lot on his plate. What has Sean McDermott said over and over again? He's not going to play rookies that aren't ready to go. But if you're throwing a lot on the plate for these rookies and they're thriving, they're doing everything right, that's the fastest way to get them on the field.
You look great in the Fieldhouse. Is this the first time you've ever been in the Fieldhouse?
I think we were here once or twice, but we've never done Shout here before.
Yeah, we had never done Shout here before. And this is really cool to just have you out here for like a practice day.
Yeah.
Like, I wish it could be like this every day. You'd have to quit the day job though. I don't think that's in the cards.
No, and probably not in the cards after about 19 years of teaching as well.
So I want to get into Tre'Davious White because I think that the range of expectations for him when the Bills signed him from fans, it's been pretty wide, right? Like, there's been some people that think, okay, he comes in and he's competition for CB1. There's some people that think he might be like a fringe roster guy at this stage in his career, coming off of both of the injuries. I've been waiting for like the first day. And for him, for cornerbacks in general, defensive backs, you could take a lot more out of what happened today than you can defensive linemen, offensive linemen. Like, they're just not firing off the ball. They're not competing at the same level. Defensive pass rushers have to kind of peel off. Whereas Trey White's got to like be out there, run with all of these fast wide receivers. And I thought this was his best day by far. He puts a highlight at the end of the practice with intercepting Josh Allen, which would have gone for a touchdown. Khalil Shakir kind of like tripped on the day. Very kind of odd day for Shakir. Like, hands weren't great, usually super reliable. It just wasn't his kind of day. But Tre'Davious White in the right place at the right time makes a play in that spot. That's massive for his confidence. And, as we look ahead to the beginning of training camp, those are going to be really important reps for Maxwell Hairston, Dorian Strong, of course, but they're really important for Tre'Davious White. This is like the same defense. He played for Bobby Babbage. He played for Sean McDermott. But it's a little bit different, right? Like, it's a different complexion in the DB's room from when he was here before. And I think this is going to be a really important time period for him, those first couple of weeks of camp.
Yeah, it's going to be huge for him. You mentioned where some people say fringe roster guys, some say he could be a big time contributor in the cornerback room. I was somewhere in between in those two areas, but you looked at his tape last year. First and foremost with the Rams, it was not good. It was not. But then when he played in Baltimore late in the season, you saw flashes. You saw maybe he is getting healthy. He's looking right. He's having some really good reps against George Pickens at that time. And now he comes back to Buffalo. He's a few years removed from some very serious injuries. Maybe there is still some more, gas left in the tank. And you see a play like today where Khalil Shakir has a rare off day. He slips. White's there in the right spot, makes the play. And as you said, takes it for what would have been a touchdown.
So the other play was in 7-on-7, which I think really puts somebody like Tre'Davious White, where we have questions about like the recovery speed, like the ability to run with fast wide receivers. I mean, Elijah Moore is like what, 4.3 speed, right? Yeah, so nice. He's in 7-on-7. When you get lined up with Moore in that spot, that puts White at a very big disadvantage. And I was so impressed with the way that he not only ran with Moore, but competed with Moore. I thought Moore probably gets called for OPI if that's a game situation. Obviously, he makes a catch and probably would have been a touchdown. But for Trey White to run with him in that way and to be competitive at the catch point at the like second and third level of the play, I was really impressed.
Yeah, that's huge because, we've talked about more in the speed, the breakaway speed. If White is able to stay with him stride for stride, that he's going to be able to stay with just about anyone this year.
We're coming to you here with just about 1,000 people watching live from the Fieldhouse in Orchard Park. The Bills wrapped up day 2 of mandatory minicamp. Right now, if you want to become a Shout Insider and get all the juice tomorrow on the last day of minicamp, as we set up for the little vacation before we get to training camp, this is the best time of year to become an insider. 716-528-6727. Over the next 6 weeks, I'm just not in the habit of checking my DMs as much as I was in the past. A lot of these websites are a little bit of a cesspool at times, so I haven't been as active. If you kind of like interacted with us on social media over the years, the best place to really stay in contact with us is on the Insider text line. It's 716-528-6727. It's a 2-week free trial. Then it's $3.99 a month after that. $50 a year. I mean, that's what, 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks nowadays.
Pretty close.
Don't get me into Starbucks. I have a story about them from the other day. We'll save that for another show. But it's definitely the time to join to be an insider.
Yeah, it's the perfect time. Training camp is where everyone wants to know how players are faring, rookies, veterans, you name it. We'll have that for you. We'll be there together many days. You'll be there every single day living that dorm life. So join now.
Cole Bishop, we talked a little bit about this in yesterday's episode. He's doing more. So he was doing stuff off to the side. I mentioned Joey Bosa as well. DeMar Hamlin kind of ramping up a little bit. So again, these are probably injuries that if we were in training camp, maybe something that these guys would be able to push through. I mean, Bishop was doing all of his individual work with his helmet on, which usually tells you he's in a pretty good spot. But again, not out there for what I think are really important reps. And I think this is a great reminder of the situation that he was in that DB room last offseason that cost him a spot in the starting lineup. We've talked about Derek Forrest. You have DeMar Hamlin that's kind of floating out there. I think Jordan Hancock's been really competitive through the first couple days here at minicamp. Has he been out of position in a couple plays? Sure, but he's been competitive. He's been feisty. I think that's what you're looking for a young rookie safety. Forrest is a veteran at this point, I think, although Keon Coleman gave me a little bit of flack for that the other day. What's the cutoff for when a player becomes a veteran? He argued that it's like for a younger, like a player that comes in the league at 21 or so, they're not really consider a vet till you're 7 or 8. And I'm like, I don't know. I usually go second contract is when I think you start to become a vet, where you've seen a lot of things in the league. But listen, I'm not going to say Keon Coleman's wrong. If he thinks that, I shouldn't be calling Elijah Moore and Josh Palmer vets, I guess I shouldn't be doing that.
I think veterans, I think what you said, the second contract makes a lot of sense. 25, 26 years old, because again, minus the quarterback position, a lot of these players are only playing until late 20s, early 30s. So right in between there, I would say would be when you should be considered a vet.
Just checking out the live comments here on the episode. We're not only doing a podcast in the Fieldhouse, Ryan, we are live. We do most of our podcasts live. I feel like I would feel weird if we were just recording this. I like to kind of share the experience with everybody. Sorry that I haven't been able to keep track of all the comments in there, but we're kind of far away from the computer. Okay. I see a comment in here, though, about Palmer and Moore. And this has been, like, to me, the biggest storyline of this week, outside of Hairston now with whatever's going on there, has been the emergence of Palmer getting comfortable in this offense, and Elijah Moore, no matter what quarterback he's playing with, making himself available, flashing his speed. I mean, he was involved in probably 5 to 8 plays in team drills today through 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. He gets open. He's got sure hands. I don't think he's got a single drop. And on the day when Khalil Shakir had a couple, Keon Coleman might have had one as well, but he was absolutely electric in 7-on-7. We could talk about him as well. He spoke to reporters after practice. That is massive for Josh Allen, starting to build some, trust equity with some of these new additions. For Palmer and Moore to come in here and have the kind of mini camp they've had, they're going to have to transition it to when the pads come out of training camp, but it's a good start.
It's a great start. Palmer is someone that has high expectations because of the salary that Brandon Beane gave him in free agency. So you're coming in, you're from the Chargers, where you were never the guy. You were kind of buried on that depth chart. You're being paid to be one of the guys, at least here in Buffalo, and he's looked the part so far. So that's huge. He has to carry over to training camp. If it does, then I think he could have a huge role in this offense this season. As for Elijah Moore, we were talking at the end of the practice. I said, I think this guy is going to be the real deal, someone that's going to be looked back as a steal for the Bills when they signed him in free agency post-draft. This is not a Tavon Austin situation, a veteran, much older than Moore is right now, but a guy with speed that they signed, that had some hype in the spring. I think this is someone that's going to be able to come in here and contribute for this offense.
I got to say, listen, Buffalo Plus people and Carl walked behind our shot. The WKBW crew of Beauvais and Tibbetts going behind the shot. I mean, that's called class. First-rate friends and peers. I really appreciate that. Who's connection that I don't think we talk enough about, because listen, Dalton Kincaid's a first-round pick. We forget about how much, when talking about equity and experience, that they built together, Dawson Knox and Josh Allen. It was on display today, as it is usually. When Dawson Knox or Josh Allen needs somebody to make a play, he goes to Dawson Knox. He usually finds a way to make it. He was really competitive out there today, made a couple of catches. The only catch that he didn't make was actually a flash from Matt Milano, who, I had flashbacks to pre-injury Matt Milano, who was really super good in coverage, was able to compete against Knox on that play, took him kind of out of the play, and then a pass breakup on it as well. But Knox had a really good practice, and listen, it's been kind of ho-hum so far for Kincaid in minicamp. I thought he had a really strong spring. Obviously continuing to get stronger has been kind of the priority, but in terms of being here and making a place today, I thought Dawson Knox did a lot of that today.
It does feel like some Bills fans try to write off Knox every year, the salary, the production, but he is someone that Josh Allen trusts. They've been together so long. He is someone that seems to make plays when called upon. And say what you will about the money, and they might have to eventually figure something out there. But as long as he's on this team, you know that Josh Allen's going to look for him when he's on the field. They've built up a rapport. They have great chemistry with one another. Knox has worked significantly on his hands since he's come into this league. And, you know, the athleticism and the blocking is there as well.
We talked a little bit about Tyrell Shavers yesterday, and man, it's like we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. I mean, he has a day where maybe he struggles a little bit, and then he comes back today and flashes everything that we were talking about yesterday. I mean, he was super competitive no matter who he was up against today in practice. He had one catch on the sideline that I thought Maxwell Hairston was going to rip out of his hands, and he found a way to make the catch, keep on going. You know, he saw a lot of really tough matchups today, and I thought that he kind of did a nice job with Laviska Shenault, who was not available for practice today for whatever reason. Felt like Shavers really took advantage. I mean, he caught passes from White, Trubisky, and from Josh Allen today. He really had a nice bounce back day, and you could tell the kind of day he had because Keon Coleman was at the podium after practice, and Shavers was walking by, and he was messing with Coleman and smiling ear to ear. It was a big day. That's the Shavers experience that we've kind of come to expect.
Right, and when you're a fringe roster player, someone that isn't far from a lock, you need a bounce back performance after a down day. And that's exactly what he did today. We've seen flashes from Shavers. I thought Shavers had a great summer last year when he was called into action late in the regular season. The one catch that he took to the house, he showed his ability there. So the talent is there. The ability is there. He's just got to be able to put it all together and contribute on special teams. And there'll be a chance for him maybe at the bottom of this wide receiver room to make this team, depending on the numbers game at the end of August.
And there was one play at the end of practice with Shavers where it was a deep ball down the left sideline by Mike White, and it was Daryl Porter Jr. Am I saying his name right? Is it Daryl Porter?
I believe
the
so,
UDFA.
Yeah.
He was in coverage on Shavers on the sideline, and Shavers really found some separation, made life easy for Mike White on the play, and he made a really nice play. So I think that's. Listen, the wide receiver battles are going to be so interesting. Do the Bills keep 6 players? Do the Bills, where does Laviska Shenault kind of fall into things because of his return ability on kickoffs? Where's Codrington, who's in that cornerbacks room? Are they going to keep a specific punt returner and a specific kick returner? Do they even have the wherewithal to keep 6 wide receivers? Because I think they're going to keep a ton of defensive linemen. Now, it is nice for them that Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi don't factor into final cuts because they immediately go on the suspended list even before that 53-man roster decision is needed. So it gives you a little bit more wiggle room. And maybe if you want to keep, chance of Javon Solomon or chance, I don't know, they're not going to do any of the draft picks. They're not going to do Dwayne Carter. Right. All those guys would get picked up. But it gives you a little bit more leeway. But again, it's going to be tough decisions for Brandon Beane.
Yeah, even with 2 players on the suspension list to open the season, it's hard to justify giving 1, if not 2 players, roster spots just for returnability. And I get it. Codrington flashed a lot last season. I like his game a lot. But he has to elevate his cornerback play and prove that if called into action there at the bottom of the roster, he could contribute and factor in. Laviska Shenault, same thing, but with the wide receiver room or being a gadget guy on the offense. He can't just be a return man, in my opinion, on this team.
So no Connor McGovern today, which meant more work for Cedric Van Pran-Granger. And, I think this is probably, you wonder, we don't get an injury report this time of year. You wonder, could Connor McGovern practice? And are the Bills like, maybe something's bothering him? Let's hold him back because we know what we have there. These are very important reps for him. And at this stage, with what Alec Anderson is going to be asked to do in this offense, he's going to be in the jumbo package. He's going to probably be a versatile piece at maybe all 4 positions, depending on more so on the interior. I don't know if they'd still ask him to play tackle. He could play center. He could play the guards, but it's really going to probably be Cedric Van Pran-Granger, a 5th-round draft pick last year, that the Bills ask if anything were to happen to McGovern, he's going to have to go in that situation. There was one play today where Josh Allen was really frustrated with a bad snap that ended up being a fumble. Those are kind of the things that, like, if you don't have those opportunities to work with Josh Allen in this setting, those are the kind of mistakes that, maybe you have to save for a game environment, which is what, if you're Aaron Cromer, Joe Brady, Sean McDermott, you don't want to happen.
No, absolutely not. But, you mentioned McGovern. I feel like there were some low snaps early on when he kind of took over the helm there with Allen last year. And by the regular season, we never saw that. They had a great rapport. He had an unbelievable season. These are important reps to Van Pran-Granger. he was a player coming out of Georgia that was dominant. He played very well. He looked like he could be a steal in round 5. And obviously rookie season didn't get to play much, but you develop him, you bring in the traits that he has. He could definitely be, the heir apparent. He could be a highly respected backup in this league for some time to come.
I think that's going to do it for day 2. We'll be back for day 3 tomorrow. We'll wrap up everything. We'll give you some final thoughts from minicamp, everything that happens on the practice field tomorrow, some risers, some fallers, maybe project a couple position battles as well. Talk that through as we set up training camp. We'll do more of that in the lead up to training camp. But we're brought to you by the National Comedy Center. Ryan, anytime that you want, you can head over to the National Comedy Center. They always got something going on.
Always have things going on. You can do a virtual tour online if you want to check it out ahead of time, but make the trip to Jamestown, New York. Unbelievable comedians stopping in all the time.
It's a day filled with laughter. The National Comedy Center was named the best new museum in the country by USA Today, one of Time Magazine's world's greatest places. You cannot go wrong with a trip to the National Comedy Center. All right, for Ryan Talbot, I'm Matt Parrino from Orchard Park. We'll be back tomorrow, last day. Enjoy your Wednesday, everybody. Take care.